Well, it was way back in January now that me and the boys from the office decided we wanted to give us something to look forward to. The weather was a little bit bad, conditions were terrible, the lakes were frozen, and between us we weren't catching many fish. So what we decided to do was sit down, do a little bit of research on French carp fishing venues, and we decided to get a holiday booked so we had something to look forward to in the warmer months. Well, the long winter is now behind us and we finally arrived in central France. The lake is really nice, secluded, and we've got the full lake booking, so it gives us a lot of water to each person, probably about 3 or 4 acres in size with a good head of fish, with loads of snags overhanging margins, so it's going to present a lot of fishing opportunities, so there should be a variety of tactics we'll be using. And what we're going to try and do is show you exactly how we approach a French fishing holiday. It's like Tommy said, if we've seen some in here and then we go have a look in there and there's some in there, game on, innit?
They won't all be in one side. I don't think anyway, will they?
I do want to fire a catapult mixers out though, just to see. I doubt they'd come up for them, but...
Why wouldn't they?
Should we do the draw? 2 swims each side, 3 of us, fair enough. Right. Sounds good to me.
No looking. The light out or not?
He's looking.
Hey, I heated one up with the light on.
Like the World Cup tour. 3, 2, 1, go.
He's done it again! Having a laugh in you.
I do have good luck with you lads anyway.
I'm second. I know, I reckon I'd rather go third.
I'm going to go for this side, left-hand side of this swim.
Okay.
I think.
I'm going to go left-hand side on the opposite side.
I think I might have a go over there.
On the spot.
So I've chosen a swim that gives me a really nice tree-lined margin. It looks really carpy and I've seen a few fish floating about close to the margin. Snag fishing is certainly going to be on the agenda subject to the trees and the overhanging bushes, but I'm really excited to get started.
So I've been pretty lucky, to be honest. I came out second in the draw and I've actually got a side to myself, which I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen, to be fair, but I'm absolutely buzzing. I've got the side to myself. It means I've got a lot of options. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to bother leading around from the bank. I've got lucky enough to have the use of a boat, so I've just pumped the boat up. I've got a few H blocks ready, prodding sticks and my leading rod. I'm just going to go around for probably an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2, until I'm happy with 3 spots. I'm going to bait those 3 spots tonight and see what happens. Hopefully one of them will do a bite. I'm not going to the worst thing you can do on one of these holidays is sort of lose your head from the start. You turn up like I have now, I go out, I find 3 spots, do the night, wake up in the morning, nothing's happened. Go out again, you find another 3 spots, bait another 3 spots, fish a second night, and then you've got 6 spots baited. I'm going to just find 3 spots that I really am truly happy with. One next to the snag, one's just rolled literally right next to the snags where I want to go, put one. And yeah, I'm going to probably put one out towards the back and one to the right, so I've got this side to myself. I can cover a lot of water with 3 rods, so give it a go. Get out there now, get the Polaroids on, the aquascope, leading rod, prodding sticks, H blocks, and see if we can get one.
So after we decided on swims, I decided that the first thing I wanted to do was get out in a boat and just to explore briefly. Not to any extent, I just literally went with the aquascope. I wanted to scan out the area because from the bank it can look completely different to when you're out there in a boat and you see some of these spots. We didn't see loads, to be honest with you. However, on my second trip to one of the spots, or one of the likely looking spots that I think I'm going to put a rod, thought about putting a rod, I see a big old mirror just come from out of the snag, turn and then go back in. So I come straight back to the bank. I'm just getting a rig tied up now. I'm going to go back out in the boat and drop it as close and as safely as I can to that spot. Because at the end of the day, we've got loads to set up, bivvies and base camp and whatnot. So I'd rather have one rod on the spot, 100% going into the evening. I can't help but feel if I get a rod on that spot straight away, handful of bait, literally, there's a chance.
Woken up to a real savage drop back. The fish has come back off the bank probably, I don't know, 20-30 yards. I was reeling for ages before I came into contact with it. See if we can get him in the net and get that first one under the belt. Come on, baby.
What, son?
Nice slate grey one. Oh, that's a banger.
Yeah, sweet.
No, mate.
Yeah, he's just looking down.
What an absolute mega start. 42 pound on the nose. Middle rod went just after first light this morning. Absolutely made up. Get in there.
How was it? It definitely was.
I think it's around that tree, and I think because it splashed in between.
Yeah.
Go out in the boat, Al.
That was worth it.
Great white shark, mate.
That's that margin done, isn't it?
Go on, go on, go on, go Go on. Oh.
He's got no chance of getting back.
You on 12?
He needs it.
$41, $42 and a half.
42 and a half.
$42 and a half. And there we go. Here's my share of this morning's feeding spell. It's lovely, hard fighting, 42.5 pound French common. It came just after Mikey had his bite, and it actually came over the rod that I introduced a little bit more bait on, so it was the one I was most confident in. So in light of this bite, I'm going to keep that spot topped up after every fish, and I'll certainly be fishing that spot for the rest of the week. Love a French fishing holiday. Perfect start. Breakfast.
So as for my actual bait mix, it's not too dissimilar to what I use at home. And it's a good point, you know, a lot of guys that come into France, they think because they're going abroad, they need to change their baiting approach. You absolutely don't need to at all. They think they need big 24mm boilies and lots of them, and they can't use particle, but you can, they're carp. Just because they live in a different country doesn't mean they don't like particle as well. But I just stick with the tiger nuts and the boilies, and I go with crushed tigers, whole tigers, half tigers, and also boilies, half boilies, whole boilies. And of course the flake. I'm a huge fan of the flake. I've used it ever since we brought it out. Well, obviously before that I was using crushed boilies, but it makes it so much more accessible now. You know, you can just go to the freezer, I can grab a couple of kilos of crushed boilie, it's already done for me, and adding that in your mix is definitely an edge. It just keeps the fish grubbing around on the bottom for a lot longer. And to the flake, I also like to add a few whole and chopped boilies, not loads. As I said, the main bulk of the mix is made up of the squid flake, but adding the squid boilies and the halves as well just gives me different options for hook baits and different size items in the swim. And to the boilies, tiger nuts, of course. I absolutely love them, carp love them, so they've got to be in the mix. And to the nuts and the boilies, I like to add Scopex squid spod syrup, which needs no introduction whatsoever. I love using liquids in my mix, whether I'm just fishing solely boilies or a mix like this. It soaks into the baits and hopefully draws them fish down onto the bottom. And then I like to add some salt and tiger nut flour, just to bind the mix nicely together. And you've got, again, just a nice cloud in the water. And when them fish are feeding and grubbing around, there's going to be loads of different items on the bottom for them to get, and hopefully keep them in the swim for longer to entice a bite.
Well, after a really successful morning, things did slow down a little throughout the day. Temperatures were right up into the mid-30s, and it made fishing, well, not only the fishing difficult, but also just living really difficult as well. It's been a little bit uncomfortable, but the temperature's starting to cool, and it's time for a bit of food. On these holidays, it's not always about catching, and we're going to enjoy a lovely barbecue this evening, a few beers, and we're going to see what the night brings. With them temperatures cooling, we might be in for a bit of luck, or we might match it again with a first light bite in the morning.
You've gone well left.
Good fish. That's a really good fish.
What's it on?
Squid wafter. God, it just feels so heavy. How can you get it to net, mate?
Where is he? In the middle of the line?
He's just there, yeah. It's right, just leave it slack, mate. Yeah, it's on it, I think.
Right underneath.
Seen it.
He's a big one.
All saying Wills?
Well, I think we was all just about to retire for the evening. It's real late. It's about 1:30 in the morning. And it's gone. A rod that's been out since yesterday afternoon. I didn't want to redo it earlier. I went out, found a lovely little spot. Found a lovely little spot, and when I redone the rods earlier, I just decided to leave it. You know, I didn't want no disturbance in that corner. It's been left alone. And yeah, out the blue, it's torn off and it feels like a real good fish. No!
Did you see it?
Yeah, it's good.
Properly?
Yeah, it's good.
Good.
First fish I've lost in ages.
Morning.
Morning, mate. Good morning.
Morning.
Bad morning.
Just before I get my rod back out, I thought I'd quickly show you a change that I made that I definitely feel has got me the bites. I was fishing a real short hook link on a big 6-ounce inline setup, but a couple of spots I was fishing, you know, I was going out and the lead was still plugging into the bottom. Although they were glowing, it was like a soft sandy silt. So I decided to swap to a helicopter setup. And that's exactly what I've done, and I've lengthened the rig a little bit longer as well. With the helicopter, it enables me to set this top bead to how deep I think the silt or the debris is on the bottom, just meaning the rig will sit proudly above it. And also, with these new heli sleeves, I can add a quick link underneath and change the size of the lead quickly. But the most important thing about this as well, I've kept the lead on. I'm fishing tight to the snags, and underneath there's no snags at all, they're just on top of the water. So by keeping that lead on, hopefully it enables the fish to stay low in the water and not come into contact with the snags, and that's exactly what it's done. But another thing what I love about it as well, when fishing it on a leader, obviously you can set this top bead, as I said, to whatever depth you think the debris is, but it's also very safe as well. I've got a medium sinker here and a tubing bead above that. The lead will plummet into the bottom, the rig will slide up to that top bead and just rest over any debris on the bottom. And unfortunately, if you do get cut off above the leader, that top bead pulls off and it's safe and will come over the leader, and you're not leaving the fish trailing any line.
Well, I've just been rudely interrupted from my sleep by an absolute one-noter. I put out a little snide rod last night, just down to the right-hand side where I see a few show yesterday morning, and at the same sort of time they were showing, it's ramped off.
Inside my soul, I
Well, absolutely made up with him. Fishing has by no means been easy, but this morning, the little snide rod I put out last night to where I'd seen a showing fish paid off. Made up just over £33 and the second fish of the trip.
When you come to these French fishing venues, you're often assigned to one swim for the course of the week, so moving is often not an option, and you have to make the most of what's in front of you. So in this instance, I'm not seeing a lot of action, and that's all over the lake, but I do have a lot of water that I can keep an eye on. So although I've had three rods on different spots, this morning I was up early and I was watching the water like a hawk to look for any signs of carp. They're being very, very delicate, and we've actually seen them, just tiny little ripples coming out from under the snags, and on further inspection through the binoculars, there are carp present under the snags. So like I said, I've been watching the water and I've been trying to suss out if there's any different spots I can try for today. The water clarity isn't as clear as I first thought, and I've been fishing match the hatch hard-ons over a bed of scopic squid, flake and boilie. And although that did get me the bite on the first morning, I'm thinking now that due to the fish feeding so lightly, I really want to draw their attention to a bright single hook bait. So in this instance, I've drawn for the trusty yellow scopic squid pop-up in an attempt to see if that's going to make the difference. Now, often when you come to France, you're faced with the problem of crayfish. Now, previously I was using our scopic squid hard-ons, and they're a really tough bait, and it prevents the crayfish from actually pulling the bait apart and removing it from the hook. And that's actually what I had my bite on the first morning. But now, as I've changed tactic and I'm using a pop-up, naturally they're quite soft. So, to make sure the crayfish can't remove the bait from the hook, I'm actually wrapping them in a crayfish-proof mesh. You can also use an old pair of tights, but both serve exactly the same purpose. It's also important to note that I would usually use a bait screw when using the Fang Gyro rig, but on this occasion, I've made sure to use a hook ring swivel and use the bait floss method. Now, the reason for this is because with the bait floss, I have a piece of material going straight through the bait, which means the crayfish are unable to pull off. A bait screw, although they're very secure, over a period of time, especially if you're leaving the bait out there for 12 hours or more, they might just be able to pull it slightly and loosen it, and with it drawing on water, I'm a lot more confident knowing I've got a piece of material running through the bait, and that is totally crayfish proof.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it can't be any less than 30 degrees. It really is hot. I've just repositioned the rod about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, up against this snag, and it's just absolutely torn off. Where I put the rod. The rod went in the snag, Oh, hello. Well, how about that? My third fish of the trip, and from my third spot as well. So that's now all 3 spots that have produced a bite. Absolutely made up. Just proves that sitting on your hands and sticking with the spots you found at the beginning of the week will pay off eventually. Hopefully there's a few more to come now they've found the bait.
Hold up, half in, half out, like that. There, hold it there.
Well, it's been another grueling day here in France. The heat and the humidity really haven't helped things. Everything's been a struggle. The fishing has been far from easy. However, Mikey's had a bit of action today. He's had a couple of 30-pounders, one this morning and then one completely out of the blue this afternoon in what must have been 36, 38 degrees, so he's done really well to get that bite there. For me, on my side of the lake, or mine and Alfie's side of the lake, it just hasn't happened. The fish just haven't turned up. I've seen sort of 1 or 2 fish over the duration in our side of the lake, let alone my swim. And it's quite demoralising, you know, when you, but that's part and parcel of this sort of French holiday carp fishing. You enjoy your swim and you have to make the most of it. We've worked really hard, made the most of what we can do, but it just isn't happening. However, tonight looks a little bit different. We've seen more activity tonight than we have done any nights, fish showing. The boys have already started packing up base camp. We've just had our last meal together and we're all sitting here hoping that we might just get one more bite or 2.
Always fish the snags, boy. Just had a lovely dinner, probably got about half an hour till dark, and the snag rod's busted off again. Same one that went earlier this afternoon. So I'm going to quickly slip this one back, get that rod back out, because there really was some big ones in there earlier. Angry one in. I did pull him in though. Proud of me as well. I've been dropping my rigs without foam.
Well, it's our final morning here in France now, and what a fantastic few days it's been. Things got off to a brilliant start with me and Mikey both landing one on the first morning, and we did think that was a sign of things to come.
It's been incredibly frustrating, yet enjoyable fishing experience at the same time. Coming out third in the draw, I knew I was going to be up against it from the off, but it's one of those. When you come to these tight venues, you do a draw, and you can't always fish the swim you want, and you have to make do with what you get.
I personally decided at the start I was going to pick 3 spots in my swim that I was happy with, you know, so I spent a good amount of time out in the boat at the start with a prodding stick, with a lead, H-block markers, and found 3 spots I was going to be happy to fish for the following few nights. I've had fish on all of my spots now, and yeah, I genuinely feel if we was here for longer, the bites would just keep coming and coming as the spots start rocking.
I changed my approach slightly. I went from a hardened hook bait to a pop-up to try and grab their attention, a high-vis pop-up. And it was just a case of trying the spots to see if the carp were present. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this time, but like I said, I probably wouldn't do anything differently. Conditions haven't been the best, not that I'm making excuses, of course, but...
Putting the fishing to the side, I've had a wonderful time. You know, I've got to spend a few days on the bank with my friends outside of a work environment. We've had a great social, really good laugh.
I'm sitting here now, the vans are loaded, and I really don't want to go home despite only having caught 1 fish in a period of 4 days. And I think that sums it up really. It's just a brilliant experience. I've had a great time with the lads. We've had a few beers, we've had so many laughs. So if it's something you are looking to do, or you're thinking about it, I cannot recommend it enough. So get yourself out there, have a look on the internet, find a French venue, speak to your mates who have been before, and get yourself a trip booked to France.
French fishing holidays overall, you know, I absolutely love them. They're so enjoyable, and if you guys haven't done it, I truly recommend it. Get a group of you together, book a lake, get some nice food, have some barbies, catch some chunks, and just have a social with your friends, because if you haven't done it, you truly are missing out, and I guarantee you, you will enjoy it.